Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom review Roundup podcast where we have a good old chat about various geeky TV shows and give our thoughts and our overall take on that week's particular episodes. So this week, we only have 3 to discuss, and they're all within the Arrowverse, and that is Supergirl, The Flash, and Arrow. And with Supergirl, I'm going to do what I did on last week's show, where I give a little bit of a whistle-stop roundup of the events that have built up towards this episode, as we haven't been obviously reviewing it because we've been away. So just catch you up a little bit in case you are unaware, just to bring you up to speed. And then we will get on and talk about this week's episode. We've also got a couple of comments to go through, and not really much in the way of, well, no, actually there's no news really this week, because either everything's finishing or things are ongoing and there hasn't really been much that's come out about anything significant. So we're just going to get underway. So it'll probably be a shorter episode than last week's episode. Usual bits of housekeeping. So just to say, if you enjoy this podcast, please can you hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like? That would be greatly appreciated. And it goes a long way towards getting us boosted on YouTube so more people become aware of us and things like that. So your interaction is invaluable. And also the same with comments. Leave your comments down below. Not only is it good for us to get your feedback, you also get a mention on the show. And again, it's also interaction. So it's really, really good for the channel and really, really good for the podcast. Subscribe to the channel too. If you haven't done so already, that would be fantastic. If you can join the ever-growing ranks of this kingdom of geeks that I'm building here, just hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you stay notified and all of that good stuff. Check out the description box too, and there's a whole bunch of links in there of things that you can do, or, well, you don't have to, but they're all there. I will go through them properly at the end. But also in the description box, you will find the timestamps for today's episode. So if you are looking for something specific, you'll be able to find it. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome my co-host. So hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here again.
Good. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good, yeah. Last week seemed to go down well. Had lots of views.
Uh-huh.
So they were, obviously, it's a difficult time for everyone with Christmas and stuff, but, you know, at least they're aware we're back, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully, obviously, if people have not quite caught up yet, they'll still go back and watch the previous one,
exactly.
or listen to
because we'll have a Christmas break, so by the time they still have time to, you know, this week and next week as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And
when they've got time, when they're off work and stuff like that, they'll have time to like catch up on them.
Because the thing is, as well, obviously, as well as doing the reviews that we did last week, we did do a section at the beginning where we did some honorable mentions of other shows that we're watching but not covering on the podcast. So those things are still kind of relevant. So if you're interested in what those programs are and the things that maybe you're not aware of or whatever, you might get a bit of insight from us and then go, oh, I'm going to go and look out that program for myself. So it's definitely worth going back and listening to last week's if you haven't done yet, you know, rather than going, oh, well, it's outdated now because it's last week's programs, because there's other stuff in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, you like say lots of views and stuff. So that was cool. People, you know, seem happy that we're back, clearly looking at the views. So cool. That's encouraging.
Yep.
And you were happy with it? Yeah, you were happy with how it all sounded and things like that? Yeah, excellent. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do to begin with then is I'm just going to quickly whiz through the comments that we got.
Yep.
Honourable mention, I had a message to pass on to you from Skippy, who said that he was really, really glad that we're back. And he said that to say hi to you and that he was really happy to hear Geek-Mom again and stuff. So he just hadn't got the chance to actually add a comment onto the video. So I'm just passing that message along.
Oh, hello again, Skippy.
Yeah, so we got Kilu TV simply said, super video, big like, my friend. Lots of thumbs up and smiley faces. So that was quite nice. Thank you very much. Zoe was very happy we were back. And she said, woohoo, great to have you back. And she told me, obviously, personally, that she was really happy. She really enjoyed listening to the podcast. It was nice to hear our voices back again and have a laugh and listen to all the things that we had to say about the TV shows. And she thought it was very funny that Batwoman was our dishonorable mention.
Oh dear. I think it disappointed you this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on it very briefly in a moment. And then we got Cybercom Gaming. This was more to do with the copper stuff that I discussed near the beginning. And sort of said, yeah, copper's going to be tricky for some channels, but after reading and watching some content around this, I reckon the best thing for channels at this stage is to get informed. This is why I like this video. We need to talk about this more. Nice video, man. Thumbs up, thumbs up.
That's good. People
So,
appreciate
yeah.
the fact that you brought that up, and people are sort of a bit more aware of it now. How it affects me, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, we got a whole bunch of comments from your local anti-hero.
Yay.
So he started with saying, OMFG, I missed this. I smiled. I smiled so hard when you started the intro.
Oh.
So that was nice. And then the next comment was Geek-Mom.
Yay. Hi.
And that was all in capitals. And then he said, absence makes my love for Geek-Mom grow stronger.
Oh, bless him.
He also chimed in a little bit on the copper stuff, and he said they can't sue you, but they can screw over your channel. Laughing, because that was a thing in reference to you saying, "Oh, we're going to get in trouble now," and all this lot. He then went on to reference the stuff that I discussed, where he said, "It sucks, man. It really does, because the problem here is YouTube. Copper has been a law here, as in the States, for years since the 90s, and since YouTube got in trouble, they're making it a YouTube-wide problem." They may not be able to take legal action against you, as in outside the US, but YouTube could review your channel the same as a US channel. So yeah, that is a possibility. I mean, there is a thing that other stuff I've read saying that YouTube themselves could potentially do stuff like they could block certain channels, or they could do stuff. But in terms of the fines and the court stuff and things like that, because it's an American legal thing, it's not something that would affect global creators.
No.
I mean, they could. There's not really been anything concrete to say that is going to happen, though. So that is only it might, but I doubt it will.
Okay.
And then he said, it's a weird and ambiguous change to the YouTube policy that they created out of fear. I don't think they even know what they're going to do about it.
No.
And then he said about it being a YouTube thing, pass the problem on to the creator so YouTube doesn't have to have responsibility. But screw it. I don't see how your channel would come across as family friendly, same as mine. So whatever, LMAO. He took exception to my comment because he said Minecraft is better than Sekiro, so F off.
No, he's not a Minecrafter, is he?
Well, I didn't think he really was, but I think he was maybe just poking me a little bit there. He then was like really shocked because he said, "You got a War of the Worlds show?" Shocked face. So he's like, "What?"
Jealous.
So, yeah, he's obviously going to look into that. I've never heard of half of these BBC shows. I'd love to hear you talk about Merlin if you guys ever watch that. My favorite BBC show, hands down.
Wow.
So yes, we did watch Merlin back in the day when it was on.
Back in the day.
Well, I mean, it was a while ago now, wasn't it?
It was a long time ago, yeah.
It was all right. I enjoyed it initially. I did enjoy the first couple of seasons, but I kind of slipped off it a little bit, if I'm honest. It's sort of my attention waned a little bit with it as it went on, and then I don't even think I watched the last part of it. I think I'd stopped watching it before it finished. So
he was much better in Humans.
Yeah, he was in that, wasn't he? Yeah, that's right. He was. He went on to be in Humans afterwards.
That's a better program than Merlin.
I mean, it was all right. Like the dragon was cool and stuff like that. But
why do people think if you put a dragon in it, people are I'm gonna watch it because there's a dragon?
Because there's a dragon. I know.
Well, you've got a dragon. You've got your dragon on the Geek show, so that's me.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why people listen in.
Because we have a dragon. Yeah.
We have a dragon in the Geek-Dom. Yeah.
In reference to the Harry Potter thing we mentioned, he said, Harry Potter is set in 1840. You can tell by the stupid effing haircuts that Daniel Radcliffe has. I mean, obviously that's not true, but...
No.
And then he went on to say, he said, here's a question. Is your daughter interested in nerd culture? Will you bring her on in the future? I think it'd be cool to eventually have 3 generations of geek discussing geek culture. Now... Yes, that would be awesome. Yes, she is interested in geek culture by proxy of me. She's a massive Marvel fan. She loves Star Wars. She's interested in other bits and pieces. There's been other TV shows and things that she likes. So, yeah, she is very much a fan of this and she's like developing more of that fandom as she gets older. And yeah, maybe if we're still going, when she's a little bit older, because obviously she's still little at the moment. So when she's like maybe in her teens or something, and if we're still doing this podcast, which hopefully we might be, yeah, that would be great. I mean, that would be quite fun, wouldn't it, to have three generations of us?
That'd be cool. You
discussing
don't mean this
all these
particular
things.
podcast? We did say it was going to be a shorter one.
Oh, funny.
Boom,
No,
boom.
not this one right now that we're recording.
I know.
The podcast in general.
I have to throw that in, don't I? Because, some of your viewers, your listeners will be going, really? They still be doing this podcast?
Yeah, this is the longest
I know
podcast
he's done
in
some
history.
marathon ones, but yay.
We're going for the record, folks. We're going
5
for
years' time, we'll still be doing this one.
Guinness Book of Records.
We should do that for charity.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. How long could we do the podcast for? Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. See if we can find a way to do it live. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I've been trying so hard to get Katie, which is his significant other, to watch Castle Rock. I'm so interested in it. Get her to watch it. It's great.
Wow.
So good. Like this week, again, honorable mention, like the one that was on this week. But oh my God, it was so good. And the way it tied back into the first season, I won't obviously say much because I don't want to give spoilers, but that
was a shocker, wasn't it? When we realised it connected to the first one.
Big sort of like OMG moment. It was so good. But yeah, definitely try and get her to watch it because it's great. I also don't have a way to watch Watchmen. And he put lots of like awkward, like the sort of like not frowny, but like the side mouth sort of like, Now, without going into too much detail, there are ways that you could watch Watchmen. You have access to the internet, is all I will say.
That's all you need to know.
You work out the rest. You connect the dots.
The power of the internet is amazing.
If you want to know more, Jesse, send me a private message on Twitter and I'll go into it a bit more with you. Yeah. And then he said, I'll be back with more comments. Yeah, because he was going into the hospital today for something I won't go into. But he said, I'm loving having you guys back. So I may drop in a few comments from last week's podcast next week when we record again, if he comes back in and says anything specific about the other bits of last week's podcast. But that's all the comments we got.
That's a lot of comments.
Up to date. Yeah, there's a lot of comments there. See, the thing is, I've said this to him before about how you can edit your comments. You don't need to put lots of individual ones.
You told me that, didn't you?
But he obviously forgot that. So, they
all came up as separate
ones.
They're all
separate comments, but never mind.
We just love them anyway.
But yeah, so thank you very much, your local anti-hero. I appreciate, we both appreciate all of your lovely comments and your continued interest in our podcast. So thank you very much for that. So there we go. So guys, you'll get those kind of mentions too, and we'll go through your comments and stuff on the podcast if you leave us some lovely comments in the comment section. So that's your incentive. You can be a part of the show.
Yep.
Yeah, so no real news, but let's say the Batwoman thing. So we'll just touch on this. So I was hoping that this week's Batwoman would have a clear through road to Crisis, that something, because she's going to be part of the crossover, hopefully something's going to happen in this week's episode that's going to tie in. Nope, it was his own story again. Some things happened that moved their plot forward, and there was nothing. There was no links whatsoever. So I can only imagine now that when her episode of the crossover drops, it is literally going to be that like some other people are going to show up in Gotham and recruit her or something, because she doesn't seem to have any inkling that anything's going on.
Right.
They did have the little teaser at the very end. So the Batwoman logo came up, they played the music, and then it cut to another scene. We'll talk about that teaser more when we get on to the other episodes in a minute. But they did show the little teaser to say it is linked. It is connected. It is going to be a part of it, but nothing actually happened in the episode that gave you any kind of obvious hints of her connection to the series, or to the mini series, should I say.
Okay.
So yeah, again, it was disappointing. I was just like, why do I carry on watching this program? But I do, just in case. Let's get cracking with this week's shows. Let's start with Supergirl. So Supergirl came back, and obviously at the end of the last season, we had the two big bits, three big bits actually, which was that Lex Luthor died, but then Lex Luthor was brought back to life, by the Monitor. And it was all, you have a important role to play in the coming crisis. And that was all there was to it. We also had the Monitor show up with Martian Manhunter, John Jones's brother, who he had freed from the Phantom Zone prison. And again, no real explanation, just kind of like, you are here, now go seek out your brother. And then the other little cliffhanger we had going in was about this shadowy organization known as Leviathan that came up a little bit last season. We didn't know too much about them, more just the name and the fact that Eve Teschmacher was working for them. So as much as she appeared like she was working for Lena, but was secretly working for Lex, but in reality, she was actually working for this other organization. She tried to run away at the end, and this strange old woman showed up and basically said that Leviathan was everywhere and Leviathan was coming. And that was that. So then we start in this episode, and some of these plot threads come out. To start with, we have a brand new owner gets introduced for Catco, and she comes in and she's like, oh, now I'm the new boss. So I'm taking over Catco. So I'm now in charge of the paper. And we're going to move into a more technological era, and it's going to be less of the in-depth journalistic stuff and more pop culture, online, snappy, soundbite, viral videos and all this kind of stuff, much to the chagrin of Kara and Jimmy, who were like, but this is like a proper paper, and like, especially the fact that Kara was kind of getting recognized by, for award-winning writing and stuff. And it's like, no, we want you to do trashy, like, online pieces and stuff like that. So it was like, who is this woman? Where's she come from? We find out as it goes on a bit, she's an old friend of Lena's, and Lena sold the business to her because she had experienced some losses during all of the stuff that happened with Lex. So she needed to make some money back. So she sold this company to her old friend. That's all we really knew at the time. There was also another new character got introduced, an English guy who was a reporter for, I'm imagining that like it's supposed to be that this world's version of something like I don't know, like the Times or the Observer or the Independent or something.
Yeah.
Like one of those big highbrow broadsheet papers, because they sort of talked about him being like a big journalist, and like everybody knew who he was. Of like, oh, you're really famous, you write for this paper in London and stuff. And he was there was something a bit about him. He was like, oh, he's a bit cocky and don't really like him. And then you also had the whole thing of John's brother starting to make himself known, but they didn't really know what was going on and who he was to begin with. But John was getting strange senses of like, oh, I'm getting something, it's familiar, but I don't know what it is. Without breaking it down episode by episode, as it went on, John's brother kept being a bit of an antagonist, to the point where John finally realized, I know why I recognize this. It's like a telepathic thing and it's very similar to mine. Then he got the reveal that it was a brother, but he had no knowledge of this brother. So I remember at the time we were thinking, oh, maybe it's like a thing like that the brother thinks that Jean is his brother, but maybe he's from another Earth or another Mars, from another reality, because of the whole crossover thing. And it's like, oh, maybe the Monitor has plucked him from a different reality and brought him here for some reason. And that's why John doesn't know who he is, because John was like, I have no brother. I don't have a brother. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We then go on to find out that he's actually got like locked memories, that he does have a brother. This guy is actually his brother, but he didn't know about it because his memories were like covered up to make him forget, because his brother had like an ailment, which was seen as a taboo thing on Mars. And rather than trying to help him, their father basically gave up on him, and he just sort of like sent him away. And he sent him away. And because it was like, it was like a secret shame, that first part of it. But then because he was away and he was cast out by his family, the White Martians obviously got wind of his abilities and the fact that he can project his thoughts and he can control people. And they came to him and they basically took him in. And he's like, well, nobody else wanted me. So he sided with the White Martians. And it turns out he was a big part of the war on Mars, because he helped the White Martians get the upper hand on the regular Martians. And all of this was kind of blocked from John's mind because, I suppose, one, it's traumatic. Secondly, it's covering up secret shame of his father and stuff like this. So that's why he had no knowledge that he had this brother. But these memories came out and now he knows all about it. And then he's like, okay, this guy, this Malefek is my brother. I need to stop him. he's doing bad things and he's going to cause lots of damage here. I mean, he was summoning like alien creatures from other places to come and like assassins and stuff to cause them trouble and things like that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was doing all sorts of stuff. Alongside all of that, you have the ongoing stuff at the paper. And you've got all this stuff with this guy, this William Day. And it's like, there's something not right about him. Kara's starting to think there's something dodgy about him. And so she starts looking into him. And it appears initially that our feelings of him being dodgy are correct. It seems like he's involved in some kind of criminal thing and he's like a bad guy and stuff. But then it gets revealed even more that there's a twist within a twist in that, no, he's actually like an undercover there. And he's there working on a case to do with the new owner of the paper. And about the fact that her and her family are involved in criminal activities, but they've never been caught because they're very powerful and they're able to get away with these crimes. And a lot of it is connected to his best friend who went missing, and then it appeared there was a murder and all of this kind of stuff. And then it was the whole thing that his best friend was actually engaged to the new owner of the paper. And so it's like, okay. So it's also this personal connection that this Andrea Rojas woman was the fiance of his best friend. And it was after getting involved with her that suddenly his best friend disappeared. So it's like, and then all these things being unearthed about her family being dodgy. So Supergirl's like, okay, so we'll work together. I'll help you. And he's like, no, you need to stay out of this. It's dangerous. And she's like, no, I have things. And she eventually brought him into the DEO and it's like, there's resources that can help you track people down. And then this new guy turns up and he was like, he was a bit like Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man, wasn't he? He had like metal arms and stuff. Yeah. And he was like a kind of assassin type character and he kept showing up. And then it turns out this guy is actually working for Leviathan. So then you get all the Leviathan stuff coming up again. And you're like, they didn't forget about this little plot thread. He's working for Leviathan. He's like an assassin for them. And there was also this weird shadowy person, this like weird shadow assassin that showed up randomly a couple of times. And so then it all turns out that's connected. And eventually we discover that this new villain is actually William's best friend. And he's been changed. He's been transformed into this kind of like super soldier type, super villain type character. And then we get even deeper into it in that it turns out that so is the fiance, Andrea.
As the owner of the newspaper,
Yeah, Andrea is actually also part of Leviathan, and she's actually this weird shadow assassin that is able to just kind of phase in and out of places and stuff. We get more on that in a little bit because we'll talk a little bit more about the really good origin story episode. So there's all that. And then obviously you've got the usual goings on where the team are all trying to work together, Brainiac and Dreamer and Alex and obviously Supergirl and stuff to try and take down all these threats that are coming up as a result of either Malefic or the rise of Leviathan. Then you've got obviously Kelly, who is Jimmy's sister, who came into it last season. She gets a job with this other company. So Andrea, as well as owning Catco, she also owns this tech company. And they're working on these weird contact lenses that basically create like a virtual reality world. And they can also do things where they can like go inside your memories and they can like, they're on about using it for medical purposes for people with like Alzheimer's and things like that. So Malefic, realizing that he also has got issues with his mind, goes to her in disguise as
the guy off Stranger Things.
Yeah, Sean Astin from the Lord of the Rings CDs, Bob from Stranger Things, and obviously some of you will know him from years ago from the Goonies and stuff. He showed up in one episode and he was like an old friend of Kelly's, but it wasn't really him. It was actually Malefic in disguise. And the idea was that he was going to try and get her to use her tech to unlock all the stuff in his mind and also unlock his powers because his full powers had also been kind of locked down. So he uses all that and you keep getting this stuff with the technology. And in the meantime, Lena, who has obviously last season learned the shocking truth that Supergirl and Kara are actually one and the same person, and she feels betrayed by it all, has also got hold of this same technology. And she's created an artificial intelligence, and she's planning to use this technology to piggyback off the release of it worldwide to sort of like almost mind control people, but to make everybody good. Because it's
Yeah.
like everybody in the world is wicked. People keep secrets from each other. They hurt their loved ones. They lie. They cheat. They do negative things. This is going to do something to their brains to make everybody basically placid and kind and good. So her intentions are noble, but it's still that like, yeah, but you're on about basically mind controlling the whole population. That's a bit dodgy. She then moves forward with her plans in that she then gets her hands on Eve again and brings Eve in, and she's basically trying to get information out of Eve. Some information comes up a little bit about Leviathan, but then ultimately what she does is she uses Eve and she implants this AI she's created into Eve so that the AI then has a body. So rather than just being a computer system, she's like, I need an assistant. So she creates an assistant by putting this AI into Eve, and it basically takes over Eve. And then, for all intents and purposes, she looks like Eve, but she's not Eve anymore. And then that allows her to get Eve's knowledge about stuff, which will then help towards building this program she's building. And then also having the AI be able to do hands-on work to build things to help her plan come to fruition. Also along the way, tying in with John's brother, she captured him because they had this whole thing where she was working, because obviously none of the good guys knew that Lena was up to all of this. So she's still acting like everything's fine, and she's working with them, and they're trying to catch Malefic. But then when they catch Malefic and they think that they got him and they send him back to the Phantom Zone, in reality, he actually gets transported to Lena's laboratory and is trapped there. And then she's like, I'm going to use your mind control powers and stuff to build this into my technology. And so she uses him to get these like special waves that he emits. And then that gets incorporated into the technology to further use this to be able to control people's brains.
That was clever.
Yeah. So there's that. Then what else happened? We got a really good flashback episode, which was all about Lena as a young girl and how she knew Andrea. And it was them at school together and growing up and stuff. And eventually there was a whole thing. It tied in with some of the past events from previous seasons of Supergirl, which was really cool. And it was around the time that Lex was going to turn the skies red in order to block out the sunlight, in order to cripple Superman. And she was like, I need help with this. I need something. So she goes to her old friend, Andrea, and she's on about these stories her mother told her as a child about this artifact in South America. And she thinks that this could be the key. So they do this expedition. They go there. And then Andrea falls down a hole and lands in this little like shrine. And there's this medallion that they've been looking for is there. And she's going to take it and obviously tell Lena. But then this strange man shows up and basically says that she needs to take the medallion because she has been chosen. And because her father's business is like on the brink of bankruptcy, they're like, basically, we can help you to fix everything. We are part of a very powerful organization called Leviathan. You join us and do as you're told, your father's business will be fine. He'll be fine. He won't try and kill himself or anything like that. You know, everything will be good. And she's thinking, well, I want to try and protect my dad. So she betrays her friend. So then you also get then a bit more of an insight into why Lena takes friendship betrayals so hard, because it's happened to her not only with her own brother, but also with this girl that she thought was her best friend. And now she's experiencing it all over again with Kara. Hence the reason that she's sort of gone off the deep end a little bit. So Andrea found this necklace. Then her and Lena went their separate ways eventually. And then it shows how Andrea met this guy. I've forgotten what his name was now. Russell, that's right, yeah. She meets this Russell, and Russell is going to be the guy eventually that gets turned into like the Dr. Octopus style assassin guy. And a lot of that is due to her connection to Leviathan, is that he gets sort of mixed up in it all. And in an attempt to save his life, because they're going to kill him, she basically plea bargains them and says, no, he's really useful. He could be useful to you and stuff. And they go, okay, that's fine. So they take him into their facility and they basically transform him into something else. And then she's always got that guilt of like, this is all my fault. You know, they basically did this to the person I love and changed him into a weapon. But I was trying to do it to save his life. You know, I was trying to stop him from being killed. Then you have all the stuff with Lena and like the reason she moved to National City because of all the stuff Lex had been doing and because she wanted to try and make a difference. And she saw Supergirl And she's like, I want to show the world that a Luthor can work along with a super and help make the world a better place. So it always looks like Lena has always had honorable intentions and has always tried to show that the Luthor name should not just be associated with badness. So, and then it catches us all up of like how she got to know Supergirl and how they became friends and how she was reluctant to be a friend to begin with as a result of what had happened in her past with Andrea. But eventually she softened and realized, yeah, I can move on. I can let friends in. So that's why, again, it feels like such a major betrayal now, because it's like I let my guard down. I allowed myself to trust somebody again. And yet again, I've been lied to and betrayed. So that was a really good episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where we got all of that backstory.
Yeah.
And then also this thing with the medallion was that because it was part of like an alien culture, it imbued Andrea with these powers, which allowed her to turn into like smoke, like a shadow, and be able to get into places and stuff. But then she was then getting used as a pawn by Leviathan. They're basically like, we're your puppet masters now. We control you. We tell you what to do. And so she would have to do stuff at their behest. Then what else happened? Oh, eventually the reason we found out it was her as well was because they captured Russell and then she came to rescue him because Leviathan were basically going to cut the strings on them all. And she's like, no, leave it to me. I'll get in there. I'll save him. And Supergirl have been trying to get through to him and trying to learn the truth because they're then now starting to become more aware that this organization exists, but they know nothing about them. They're so secretive. They don't really know anything. So they're like, well, maybe we can get some answers out of Russell. And then, unfortunately, Andrea came and took him away.
But he did reveal the Leviathan connection, didn't he?
Yes, and they then find out through what he's been told, and then Brainiac, obviously being super clever, starts looking through Earth history and stuff to do with ancient cultures and stuff like that. And it turns out, going back hundreds of thousands of years, it all ties in with like stuff from the Bible and stuff from ancient Sumeria and Mesopotamia and stuff like that to do with Leviathan, and how Leviathan seems to be an alien species or an alien race, or and they're like godlike beings that the people of the old world, the ancient cultures, because they were so technologically advanced and stuff, they saw them as gods and they treated them as such. But they're not gods, they're just very powerful alien beings. Then we fully got Leviathan. Then the series decided to show us them properly. And we got the reveal of Mitch Pileggi from the X-Files. Skinner from the X-Files. And he
was called Romacon.
Romacon. Yeah, Romcon. Ramakan.
Oh, Ramakan.
Romcom. So Ramakan is effectively, he appeared to be like the leader. And they were like this. They were like in a weird, I suppose it would be seen as like a, you know, like when you see these secret societies and they have like a meeting place that has a bar and it's all like very old money, you know, people in armchairs next to fireplaces and lots of bookcases
just
and
big,
that kind of
big
thing.
Secret society building, like, the Freemasons and stuff, men only type club things, isn't it? Sort of
Except
thing.
It wasn't men only, because there was a woman that also seemed to be quite high up in this group. And they're talking about them being on Earth for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, and that they've always shaped and controlled the destiny of the Earth, and that they basically he sees mankind as a plague, and that they're all the things they're doing, that they are destroying the natural order of things, they're doing all these terrible things. And because he's like a great and powerful and terrible god, or so he believes, it's time for like a cleansing. It's like for the Noah's Ark type thing. Because he talk about the flood and say that it was him. Like there was that one time when they got, you know, where they were all murdering and killing each other and acting like savages, and something had to be done. So I created a tsunami that flooded half the world. And you're like, oh, so that's the flood from the Bible. And so he was like, it's time again for another reckoning, and it's time for Leviathan to step out of the shadows and basically punish humanity and put them back in their place again and reestablish the balance of this planet. So it's like, oh, now they're becoming a proper threat. Now that we've sort of eased off on the threat of John's brother a little bit, the real threat coming to the surface is Leviathan.
Yeah.
So then you start seeing he's got all these powers. He's like an earthbender. He can literally use his powers to create earthquakes and move mountains and all of this kind of stuff. and he reveals himself, and Supergirl has a face off with him, and it's like, now we've seen the face of the enemy, and he's very, very strong. She then decided to go to the Fortress of Solitude to see if there was something there that could be used against them. And it was while there she discovered that these beings were from a planet in the same solar system as Krypton.
Yeah.
So a bit like what happened when we were introduced to Mon-El, where he was from like a sister planet to Krypton. These beings were also from that same like star system. Yeah. So it's like, so we are aware of their species, and as a result, we do have things that we could use against them. And it was like a sonic cannon or something?
That's it, yeah.
Like a disruptor cannon or something that could be used against him. He came to the fortress because he was looking, he was like saying, the Kryptonian could be a problem, so I need to find her and neutralize her. And then it was like, we can't find her anywhere on the Earth. And then he's like, there's somewhere on Earth she could be that makes it seem like she's not on Earth. And so obviously then you go, oh my God, they're aware of the Fortress of Solitude. So he shows up there to basically take on Supergirl, and she uses the defenses against him, and she's able to beat him with the help of Lena, because Lena has been, very helpful. I'm going to help you and this, that, and the other. But secretly is obviously, I'm angry with Supergirl, and I want to do this program, and I've
got my own agenda.
And in the meantime as well, Kara had actually revealed herself at this point. It was a couple of episodes in. I can't keep living a lie anymore. I have to tell Lena the truth. So she told Lena the truth and said, I'm Supergirl, and I'm really sorry I lied to you and all this up. But it seemed like Lena was okay with her and was like, okay, I am upset by this, but I understand. But we as the viewers knew that wasn't the case. So they go to the fortress, and after they've dispatched of Rama Khan, Lena is like, oh, can I have a look at this thing? Can I have a look at that thing? And she's like, yeah, sure, yeah. And she's taken down all of the security measures that Superman had put in place, that if any Luthor stepped foot in there, the fortress would basically class them as a hostile. Supergirl turns all them off. So now Lena's got free reign in the Fortress of Solitude. So while Supergirl's looking for weapons and this, that, and the other, Lena gets control of basically the computer systems and stuff in the fortress.
Yeah, Myriad.
Myriad, yes. And she turns Myriad against Supergirl. And she basically traps Supergirl, and then she reveals to her, I knew your secret before you told me. And she's like, all the times you could have told me, and I had to find out from Lex. And she's like, what?
His last ever video to her, wasn't it?
Yeah, and she's like, his last gift to me before he died. And she's like, but Lex died. And he's like, no, I saw him. And then she said, I'm the one that killed him. But before he died, he showed me the truth about how you and everyone else has been lying to me this whole time. That everyone knew, Jimmy knew, and Brainiac and Alex, and everyone knew that you were Kara and Supergirl. And I was supposed to be your best friend, and you never told me. And so she's like, I'm sorry, I can't forgive you. And she wasn't going to kill her. She's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm also not letting you out. You're trapped here now. And she got what she needed technology-wise, because it was the final step of her plan. She needed something powerful that would boost the signal of this thing so that she could launch it worldwide simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that was what Myriad allowed her to do. So she's got all the components now to launch her final plan.
And that's how it left it, wasn't it? It left Supergirl there.
Yeah. One other thing was that John, after everything that the brother's gone through and after the battling backwards and forwards with the brother and stuff, John finally actually had a meeting properly with his brother. And they did their like Martian, like mind meld type thing. They're like Vulcan mind meld. And they resolved everything because the brother realized then that John was not complicit in anything, and John was also it was all unknowing to John what had happened, and he realized that obviously John is a good man and is not his enemy and stuff, and they basically resolved their differences and they made friends, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if I can help you with anything, I'll help you with anything, sort of thing. So that plot thread was resolved. We've got the Leviathan thing coming to the surface now and being a full threat. And then we've also got Lena's plan that's been going throughout the course of the episodes, finally seemingly coming to a conclusion.
Yeah.
The only other thing that happened was, I think, Andrea had decided that obviously she didn't want to be a part of all of this stuff to do with Leviathan anymore, and they basically were like, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, because she said, I gave them because she gave the medallion to Lena.
Yeah.
But so she thought she was free of it. And they said, no.
It's part of you.
You don't need the medallion now, because once she'd done it, whatever she had to do to it, it's now part within her. So they can call her up at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Because she just thought, I'll get rid of the medallion, I'm free, but she wasn't.
Yep.
Yep.
One other little thing that happened two little things. One was that there was lots of like relationship issues between Brainy and Dreamer, which was quite sad because it was quite funny, and he's like overcompensated because he's like a super intelligent alien robot being. He takes everything literally, and so she's like, I like all these things. You like these things? I'll buy you an abundance of them. You like this thing? Poetry? Yeah, I'm going to spout poetry all the time to you, to the point where she was like, it's too much. It's all too much. You're being too over the top and too smothering and stuff like that. So that was really sad. Bless him, because he doesn't understand. And also Jimmy, as a result of all the things that have been happening and stuff, there was an episode where they had to leave town because Kelly was at risk from when she'd been working with Malefek. And they went back to their hometown. And while there, Jimmy realized the hometown was in a bit of trouble. It'd fallen into a bit of disrepair and stuff. And so he decided that he had a different calling, and he was going to quit Catco because he couldn't stand by and be a part of what they were doing with it now. And he was going to go back to his hometown and buy the local newspaper and sort of try and help the town like become prosperous again. And that was a thing in real life. That was to allow the actor McCade Brooks to actually go out of the show because he's doing other things. So it allowed him to sort of exit, but at the same time keeping it open for him to be able to return as a guest star in the future.
At some point, yeah.
So that's pretty much it, isn't it?
But what I'd just like to say before we carry on, as listeners, how much excitement had gone on in Supergirl in those episodes, because there was so much going on. I mean, it's never been the best of all the group, has it? But it's been one of the most exciting ones out of all of them. Yeah,
I mean, the thing with Supergirl,
so much happened from day one, wasn't there?
Supergirl has always been like it's okay to watch, but it always feels a little bit light in comparison to the other two. It's a bit more angsty, a little bit more kind of, female empowerment, relationships and all of this kind of stuff. But I mean, there's always been pretty decent stuff in there as well. A lot of good sci-fi stuff and alien stuff and things like this. But it's just, there's been also too many other things. And sometimes, more often than not, in a 22 episode season, there's only been really a handful that have been like really good. And the rest has just been kind of plodding to push the plot forward. Whereas since it came back this time, it's come back really strong.
Yeah,
it's been very exciting every week. And obviously she's got, she's a bit different now. She's a bit more grown up. She's got a brand new costume. So she sort of ditched the sort of high school cheerleader look, and she's now got like an all-in-one kind of bodysuit with trousers and stuff like that. Which again, they sort of, in a way, they built off the Flash idea, whereas the Flash now has the ring where the suit comes out of it. She's got like a nanotech thing where she just kind of taps the side of her head, and it like
makes it more realistic rather than running like I've been wearing this suit under my dress for all day. I can just rip that dress off. I go.
Yeah.
Now it makes more sense with the technology of today. You tap something, or she presses her glasses, doesn't she?
And then it sort of
and her suit just changes.
Around her. Yeah.
And that makes more sense because obviously I said that to you, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Based on like the old school Superman and stuff like that. Years ago, that was how are we going to get him to change into this costume?
Yeah.
But like the technology of today and in the programs, they need to like make it more believable, and it works better.
Yeah.
So it's all good. But it's just hence why the amount of stuff you had to talk about, that is just in a few small episodes, really. To fair, so much, absolutely amazing.
So many plot threads like going alongside each other.
Really good quality.
Let's get on to this week's then. So this week's episode 8, called The Wrath of Rama Khan. And that made me laugh because it was a bit like the Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. It's The Wrath of Rama Khan. So, go ahead. You talk now.
So last week we were worried how she was going to get out of this Fortress of Solitude, but Alex and Brainiac realised where she'd gone, and they got there and got her out of the force field.
Yeah.
And she was this Mount Morokwai. Was that what she thought? That's where she'd gone to, Lena.
Eventually they were trying to work out what was going on, because Supergirl brought them up to speed and said, this is what happened. Lena trapped me. She turned everything against me. She stole Myriad, and this whole thing about her plan. And so straight away, Alex is like, she's a threat. She has to be taken down. And Kara's like, no. I think she thinks she's doing a good thing. We need to, she's been betrayed. She's hurting. We need to try and reach out to her, and she's our friend. And so then they were like, well, we need to work out where she is. And so that's when when they were trying to research where could she be and where could she launch something from. And again, I think it was Brainy doing all these cross calculations and working out, the logical conclusions to things. And it was like Lex Luthor had a base on this mountain, and that would be the ideal place to be able to launch this from, because of it having a clear route to a satellite that was nearby and all.
That's right. They needed to do it. Yeah. So she went there and she found her, obviously, and then Lena was deploying rays, like some sort of rays at her, and something went wrong, didn't it? And it changed the algorithm, and it was going to shoot kryptonite bombs at her.
That's right. Yeah.
But luckily they stopped that, because obviously that would have killed her, wouldn't it? But Lena, it's not Lena's aim to kill her.
No.
So luckily, realised they managed to deploy that.
Because Hope, the AI, like Eve woman, she said, like, well, surely wouldn't it be one less thing to worry about? And she's like, no. She's like, the aim of this is not to harm anybody. The aim of this, what we're doing, and she said, and that includes Supergirl. I don't want to kill or hurt anyone. So she's like, we're not going to do that. And so that's why she deactivated the cannons and stuff.
Yeah. So then we had Ramakon, is it?
Ramakon, yes.
Ramakon had gone back to hit that woman he knows. I don't know what her name is.
No.
He was a bit deflated because he'd lost out at the fortress, and he feels he's losing his power.
Yeah.
But she was going, no, you got to keep going, and we need to have this. We need to. I don't know what the wording is. There's a volcano that's dormant, and we need that volcano to erupt. This is what the plan is. Yeah,
so it was like, we need another extinction level event, and it was this thing to do with the planets aligning, which would mean that he had more power or something. Yeah. And it's like, we have to do it now while the planets are aligned, because that increases my power. So it was this idea of, and I'm sure the woman was a bit unsure about it, wasn't she? And she was like, are you sure this is really the way? And he's like, I am the one that's in charge here. Yeah. And then we had the reference then about the fact that, like, he's not in charge, though, because he said, she made me the leader. She put me in charge. And it's like, wait, so there's somebody else pulling the strings here. He might be the face of Leviathan so far. He might be like their strongest general, but he's not behind. He's not the controller.
Not the boss. No. And then he figured out they needed to get Andrea, the shadow woman. He needed her help.
Yes.
To do this thing. So he went setting off after her. Supergirl filled Alex in on everything about the Lena stuff, the fact that Lena knew and all that. But she still felt she could reason with her.
Yeah.
Although Alex wanted to just like go, let's go get her. It's like, no, let me deal with it. I know what to do. John's brother thinks he might know why she needs the Myriad, because then he tells them about him being imprisoned and all the stuff he learned from being at her place.
And about the fact that she'd been able to replicate his Q waves.
The mind control. Yeah, the mind control project, yeah.
And it's like she's going to use Myriad to boost the Q waves to the satellite and then disperse it across the globe, which is then going to control everybody.
Yeah. And Alex wasn't happy, but Supergirl's convinced Lena means good by it. So it's like, please let me sort it again.
Yeah.
Andrea was visited by the Rama-Khan, what his name is. But she doesn't want to get involved. It's like, but he started bribing her, didn't he? And saying, right, I will leave your father alone forever and you'll be free.
If you do this thing.
One job, all you have to do is this, and then we'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. Supergirl decided to use a hologram to appear to Lena to plead with her.
Yeah.
But she wasn't interested, was she? I was like,
I mean,
no,
it looked like it softened her a little bit because she looked a bit emotional when Supergirl was apologizing to her and saying she completely understands and why she feels betrayed and stuff, but that she's good and she knows she's good. And she's like, I am good. What I'm doing is good. And I'm afraid your words don't mean anything to me anymore. I'm sorry. And then, she cut off the hologram.
Yeah. So she was going to launch it, but something happened and it stopped it.
Well, what happened next was then Alex was like, right, you've tried your way. And she's like, it didn't work. And she said, but we piggybacked off your transmission. And then Kara's like, you used me? And she's like, well, we had to have a contingency in case it didn't work.
How they put virus on the hologram, didn't they?
We put a virus in her system that's going to affect the Myriad system. But then as it went on, they discovered the fact that she was doing stuff at her end to try and counteract it and stuff. So they said, we've only got one option, and that is to drop Claymore on the mountain. We basically destroy the facility. And it's like, well, if you do that, it's also going to kill Lena. And didn't Brainy do a calculation? And he said, did he say there was like a 1% chance that Lena Luthor would survive?
Yeah.
But there would be like a 99 point whatever chance that Myriad would be destroyed. And so the threat would be neutralized. But there was this chance that Lena would die as well. A high chance Lena would die. And Kara's still unwilling, like, no, that's not right. There's got to be another way. And then John and his brother show up and they're like, we think we might have another solution. And it's that the brother can use his Q waves to neutralize the Myriad beam when it gets broadcast to basically like push it back and stop it. Yeah. Alex is very dubious because she's like, he was just trying to kill us all 5 minutes ago. And you now expect me to trust him and put all of our lives in his hands and stuff. And John's like, it was all a misunderstanding. You know, you don't understand. There's been a lot going on here. And I trust my brother. And she's like, oh, I'm not so sure. And I need to make the right decision. And sometimes that means making the hard decisions. And you know that, John, when you were in charge here, you know, sometimes you have to put feelings and family and stuff in the background and do what's right. So they're basically toing and froing about, are we going to drop a bomb on it or are we going to use this thing? And Kara's like, we'll try and go for the solution that saves Lena and stuff. And Alex is really in a bind about which decision do I make? So ultimately, like you said, they stopped it. Yes, because this all tied into the finale part of it, really, which was that Rama Khan and Andrea show up at the museum that we had seen in the very first episode. And it appears that at the Museum of like Natural History and stuff is also the site of this dormant volcano. Yeah. He then reveals when she sees what he's going to do, she's like, I don't want any part of it. And he like whisks her away and it's like in an underground chamber. And then he's like, you don't have a say. You know, you are going to do what I say. And he pins her down.
No, but before that, if you remember, just before that, she didn't want to do, he said he wants to create a super volcano, and she somehow slipped away through into the DEO, didn't she? And did she have the staff in her hand?
Yeah.
And then he pulled her back out, and that's because obviously she's trying to warn them, and that's the way that they worked out what the staff did.
Yeah. So then he used it and he like pinned her down with this staff underground. Yeah. And then it was like broadcasting her power almost, because there was like stuff coming out of the top of the staff. And then that's why he needed her, because whatever her ability and his ability would amplify enough that he could then raise this volcano from under the ground and make it erupt and destroy everything. Yeah. So he's busy doing that. And so then they're like, right, we need to split our forces. So we need to do this about Lena, but we also need to go and stop him. So she has to go to the fortress and get the sonic cannon. And then it's like, we then got to go and confront Rama Khan. So she goes to confront him. But unfortunately, he's just too powerful. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what she does. He's too strong, so she can't beat him. And it ends up with him pinning her down. He uses his powers to like almost like handcuff her with rock. He like buries her in rock, doesn't he? Yeah. And she's like, can't move.
Under the road.
Yeah. And she can't move. And he's like going, oh, you know, you're going to die and everyone's going to die. And he's like, you're not a god. I'm a god, and all of this stuff. And meanwhile, Jean has managed to locate Andrea and he slipped underground. And he's like, oh, I realize that this is what the staff's doing. It's amplifying the power. I need to remove the staff and free you. And then he'll be vulnerable again. So he's busy trying to remove the staff while Rama Khan is up above doing the thing that villains do, where he's like talking too much and gloating about his victory. And then Jean did manage to pull the staff out. And as he's doing that, at the same time, you see that at the DEO, they decided to give Jean's brother a chance to use his waves. And
yeah, because Lena launched it, so she got him to use his intercept to try and stop it.
And she's like, if you betray me, you'll regret it and all this stuff.
But it wasn't enough power, was it?
Because they all had their neural inhibitors on that was like dampening his powers. And Brainy's like, basically, he needs that extra 5%. If we all turn off our inhibitors, that should give him the power to overcome the wave that Lena is broadcasting. Yeah. And Alex is like, I don't want to do that because that's going to make us all vulnerable and this, that, and the other. And it's like, you got to take a leap of faith. You got trust. So she gives the order, turn off your emitters. So they all turn them off, and then it gives him the boost, and he's able to use his powers to push the wave back and stop it.
Yeah.
And then Supergirl sees all this going on in the sky. She can see the waves and stuff and realizes, oh, they're doing it. They're choosing hope. They're not choosing destruction and stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, Jean removes the staff. She's able to break free, and then she's like, right, I'm going to do the same thing. So then she's able to beat him up, stop the volcano. And then she, what did she do? She knocked him flying, but then he came. Oh yeah, she knocked him into the tar pit. But then he flew back out again.
Came back.
And it's like, oh my God. But then luckily at the nick of time, Andrea appeared because she'd been freed. And she grabbed him and plunged into the tar pit with him.
And stabbed him with the staff.
And
he ended up in the house, didn't he? Where that place we were on about where they were.
And then Kara froze it all or something and then smashed it.
And
then he was gone. And then the outcome of those two things, we'll talk about those two things first, is that Andrea left there and she's then like, I'm done now. And she like spoke to the picture of the no, it wasn't a picture. She put the contacts in so she could see him in the virtual world again, didn't she?
See all his memories, and she realised she was free.
Yeah. Like, so she did the right thing in the end. She was a hero in the end and helped save the day. And then, like you said, with him, he turned back up at the club. They're like secret headquarters, didn't he?
Yeah. And that woman told him he was over.
Yeah. And she was like, you've had your chance. She's put me in charge now.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. So you're no longer. And he was like dying, been stabbed and she just left him on the floor.
Just walked away from him.
Just kind of like, yep, I tried to warn you. You had your opportunity. You failed. You're done.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
then we had realised Lena lost the battle.
Yeah.
And they went back to her place, didn't they? They moved. And then the soldiers were coming to, she knew she was going to get arrested.
Yeah.
And she had this gun and she handed it to Hope and said, you know what you need to do.
Because she said about her being her friend, and she said, I'm not your friend. You made me. You're my creator.
Yeah.
I do for you what's best for you because that's how you made me.
Yeah.
And so that was
she basically held her at gunpoint. So when the soldiers came, she took the blame for it.
Yeah.
And sort of smiled at her when she walked away, didn't she, when they got her? So that meant Lena's, in the eyes of everyone else, it's like, oh no, she was manipulated by this woman.
Yeah.
And when they talked about it, they said it was Eve, didn't they? Because she looks like Eve.
Mm-hmm.
No one had to know it was Hope.
No.
The little computer thing she had on her desk. So she thought, oh, you covered yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
Obviously, Supergirl and Alex were talking about it all. Andrea and her memories. Lena reflecting on the picture of her and Supergirl. Kara reflecting on her and Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had John and his brother having a chat.
Yeah.
Glad they're back together. Sending him back to fight with the White Martians and gave him his space car.
Yeah, and he said, take care of it, don't get a scratch on it and stuff like that.
And he told him about his Martian, that girl he knows, the White Martian.
Mm-hmm.
Said, she'll look out for you, you'll be fine. I say, he flew off, like did his Back to the Future bit in the car.
Yep.
And then the monitor was there.
Yeah, because you had John was just like looking into the distance, smiling, wasn't he? And then you just heard this voice off camera, and it was like, well done, John Jones. You have passed the test. And then it pans out, he turns around, it pans out, and it's the monitor, and it's like, test?
And he referred to Elseworlds, the other crossover, didn't he?
Yes, he said, what did he say? Not your performance, you're like, whatever he did anyway.
Something he did in that was worthy of them. His past needed to be resolved. That's what brought the brother back for.
Yeah, and that's why that
to
was
enable
the
him
test.
to be the crisis, to be ready for the crisis.
Yeah, and he's like, now you've learned to deal with your past traumas and realize that you can draw strength from it. Now you are ready to face the coming crisis.
It's like,
wow. So all this that's gone on with him throughout the course of this series so far was all to prepare him for crisis. So that was,
I know.
cool.
It's like, oh, that's exciting. So then we had Lex Luthor on some weird planet.
Well, he wasn't. He was in nowhere, wasn't he? He was
just he was in the middle of space somewhere.
Yeah, and he was like had a weird alien chessboard.
And the Monitor brought him back because he said the world needed a mind like his.
Yeah, because of how clever and obviously the chess game thing, because he's always one move ahead. And he's like, we need somebody like you with your mind and your strategy, and you can finally be the hero that you always wanted to be, Lex Luthor. And he's kind of like, I always was the hero.
And then what was this bit about? First, he wanted to discuss Lena.
Yeah, he said, first we need to talk about my sister. And it's like...
Yeah, and that's left it like that. It's like, ooh. And then we had did we have something to like say Supergirl was over, and then we had the extra bit?
Yeah, it then said that like it would continue in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So then we had, which is really weird then. So we had Harrison Nash Wells in the sewer, the bit where we saw him.
December the 9th, 11:59 p.m.
Yeah, he's in the sewer and he's being asked to submit.
Yeah, well, he was talking to the wall that he uncovered with all the symbols.
But it was really confusing. So you've got to be careful because we've got 3 episodes and it always is slightly different.
So he's
right. He's been asked, he's talking at the wall, looking at the symbols, and somebody says, you have to submit and live your life anew.
Yeah.
And obviously the symbols, he started pressing them like a Stargate.
Yeah, because then he says about the knowledge is within you.
The knowledge is within you. Yeah, and he pressed the symbols like in Stargate.
Yeah.
And there was a bright light.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was staring at it like he was learning something. That's what I was taking from this clip at the time.
Right.
And then it took him.
Yeah, he got sucked in.
And then it just went to be continued.
And it closed up, and then it was like, he
was gone.
Then you got the Crisis logo and everything.
Weird.
But yeah, it was interesting.
Whoa, that's to do with Flash. It's on Supergirl.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, oh.
So I wonder whether what he did, like, activated, like, that's what kicked things off or something. I don't know. The other bit was that he did say, because it was repeated. I mean, it was a little bit different in each one, but not massively. A lot of the lines he delivered were the same. He said something about like he'd followed him across the multiverse to kill him.
Yes.
And but then he said, now this is something that I think makes more sense once we talk about Flash, but he's like, I traveled across the multiverse to kill you. And then he's like, and then he looks and he kind of goes, you saved my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? You just said you traveled across the multiverse to kill him, but now you're saying when did he save your life? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that was all kind of confusing. And then that's when the voice said, submit to me and use the knowledge within you. And then that's when he pressed all the buttons and stuff. But yeah, that was weird as well. It's like, I've chased you across the multiverse and you saved my life. And it's like, it's like, what? I'm confused by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really exciting. So talking about that then leads us into obviously this week's episode of Flash, which was the second part of last week. So this was The Last Temptation of Barry Allen, part 2.
So obviously he'd attacked them all, hadn't he? Because he turned into the Ramsey blood person.
Yeah, what did Cisco refer to him as Dark Flash, didn't he?
That's it, Dark Flash. All the way through it was called Dark Flash. Luckily they were all okay, and Cisco put a force field around the Star Labs.
Yeah.
And he was creating a ray gun type thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's hoping to use on Ramsey.
Yeah.
It was like, save Barry, save the city.
Yeah.
Now, we had this bit with Cecile, which was really weird. I don't know where she was. Was she in the precinct?
No, she was at the, I think she was at the newspaper offices. Because she was with the girl. What's the
Camille.
Girl? Allegra. Oh, no,
Camille.
she was with Camille, wasn't she? Yeah, she was with Camille.
Yeah.
And I think they were in the newspaper building.
And there appeared to be like loads of those. Ramsey had been there and turned a lot of those people as well. Yeah, so they seem to be trapped in that building because they realised all these things were to do with Ramsey.
Well, yeah, because didn't like the power go out or something. And then when they looked out into the corridor to see what was going on, there's somebody crept past the door and they were like, what was that? And then they looked out and then they saw this guy and he was like going, making all these zombie noises. And they were like, get back inside. It's like, this isn't good.
Well, then we saw outside was Joe.
Yeah.
Joe and the police were trying to control it. And Bloodwork and Dark Flash appeared, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that didn't go well, did it?
Yeah, basically, because of, like, with the help of Dark Flash and stuff, he was sending out his blood stuff and, like, just basically taking control of loads of people and converting loads of people and becoming what he referred to as his blood brothers and sisters. And that's why, and then every time they would attack someone, they then seemed to turn that person into another, like, blood zombie. So it was getting passed on from person to person like a virus.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, like you said, Joe was obviously trying to keep it under control. And he was like, don't harm any of these people. The people are innocent. They don't know what they're doing. You can't, like, kill anybody or anything like that.
No. And that he got zapped, didn't he, by something?
Yeah.
Something happened to Joe. And luckily Allegro come to help, didn't she? To help him. But also, in the meanwhile, Wells, we saw Wells again. He was in the drain.
Yeah.
And he was being asked, does he seek the truth? If he shows his allegiance, all will be revealed. And he's going...
The voice was telling him to submit and he was refusing and all this.
He said he won't bow to him and he has vengeance on his mind. And then obviously the zombies appeared in the drain as well, didn't they?
Well, yeah, because all the power went out again. So all the power he had that was obviously allowing him to communicate with this wall of symbols all went off. And then he's like, oh, what's happened now? And then that's when you saw again, like in a horror movie, you could see the shadows from where light was coming from somewhere from outside, obviously. And then you could see the shadow of something moving along the tunnel and going, rah, rah, coming towards him. And so then he had to try and like fight it off. And then it kept going back to him every so often. He was trying to use his gadgets to try and like at one point he had like a sound emitter, didn't he? And the sound was making the thing like go doolally and run away. But then it ran out.
I know, yeah.
He wasn't able to use it anymore. And he's like, oh, come on, damn it. And then unfortunately, loads of them then came back.
Yeah. We just left him there, didn't we, for a bit? We also had the bit where Barry had contacted Iris to say he wanted to see her, and Cisco didn't want her to go.
Yeah.
And she grabbed the breach thing, didn't she? And she went to the flat. He said a place that's close to our heart or something, and it was their flat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it turned out it wasn't Barry, it was Ramsey.
Yeah. And he was giving her a choice.
Yeah, luckily Cisco managed to listen in on it, didn't he? And he was trying to get her to join.
Yeah.
But she's not daft.
And he's basically like, you know, Barry is part of me now and you can be as well. I'm giving you the option to join rather than sort of forcing you. I'm like basically offering you this opportunity to like live forever and be a part of this like thing. And that's when she was like, okay, Cisco was right. It's not Barry.
Yeah. But luckily, obviously, it was very close, wasn't it? And luckily, he pulled her back.
Yeah.
He managed, because he had a tracker on her because of when he was listening in.
Yeah.
He got her back safe, but she was traumatized. But she said, no, maybe I'll try it again. And he was like, no, can't have you going again. It's like, too dangerous. And he wanted to use the gun, didn't he? He said, this thing will do. This will work.
Oh, the other thing we missed there was that he revealed his plan about what he basically said about he was coming home and stuff, because he said he was coming to Star Labs and he was going to use the particle accelerator to spread his blood across all of the city. The particle accelerator would finally live up to its potential and it would allow him to disperse his cure. So then obviously when she went back and she was talking to Cisco, he was trying to work out what he meant by that. And then he went, oh, if he puts it in the particle accelerator and it goes fast enough, it will, what do you say? It will oxygenate it. Yeah. And then it'll allow him to disperse it into the air. So then anybody that breathes the air will be breathing in the particles.
Yeah.
And so he'll just be able to convert the whole city.
Because he said they were heading for Star Labs, didn't he?
Yeah. But then that was
the reckoning or something he called it.
They then twigged something, didn't they, about Barry and about the fact. And she said, it's weird, though, that he could have killed me when I refused to join him. But
he told her I'm coming home.
Yeah.
When she saw him. And the thing is, I picked the right guy, which is what Cisco picked up on.
Yeah.
And they realised somehow the real Barry was trying to send messages to them.
Because then they then realized he said that. No, I said that to him about coming home the time, when there was the thing before when he went to the future and stuff. So that was the relevance of that. And then the thing about picking the right guy with Cisco was that, and he said, Barry said that to me after he told me about his death in Crisis and about picking me to be the new leader of the team. That's what he said to me about picking the right guy. And then they're like, what if Barry is still in there and he's trying to communicate with us? He's trying to give us warnings and help us and all of this stuff. And then they're like,
when they appeared at they appeared at Star Labs and Flash had said, let the light in.
Yeah.
They realised, take the defences down to let the zombies in.
Mm-hmm.
And meantime, they'd said to Allegra, because of her ultrasonic, they were going to use her as the antidote.
Yeah.
So that to whatever happened, they're going to sort that out. So Ramsey put his blood in the particle accelerator.
Yeah. And all the time, they're like, the grinning goblin Flash is by his side. And
it's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, like doing his bidding. And
I bet he loved doing that.
Yeah.
But then obviously he got him to, he brought them both to Ramsey, and then he was trying to get Barry to kill Iris.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to do it, was he?
No, he was resisting, wasn't he? And he's like,
and then Iris,
I control you. And then he started looking like he was torturing Barry because Barry was refusing to do what he told him to do.
Yeah. And then so he took control of him, didn't he? He sort of like pulled him back to him.
Yeah.
But Iris shot him, didn't she?
Yeah, while that little bit of kerfuffle was happening, they used the gun thing to knock them both out, didn't they?
Mm.
And then they both went down, and then they got Allegra, and they were getting her to build up her power, and then they were like, we need to wait until it's rotated so much, and then they opened the door, and they were like, now, give it all you've got. And so she blasted the particles with her ultrasonic powers, and it, like, destroyed it and, like, neutralized it.
And they turned around, and he'd gone, hadn't he, Ramsey?
Yeah, so Barry was still there, but Ramsey had disappeared. And then Barry came to, and I was worried for a minute because his eyes looked a bit funny when he opened his eyes.
Yeah, they were all black.
But then it turned out it was just still receiving.
The thing leaving him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When they realised he was gone, he went after him, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then when he found him, he was like a huge monster.
Yeah, this is where, for me personally, this is where the episode went a bit rubbish. Because
why is he some weird monster?
I liked all the build up, and I feel like all this season we've had all of this stuff with Bloodworks and the build up to the story and stuff like that. And we come down to this, the final episode, the final part of this story. I feel a bit like they rushed it because they were like, oh no, Crisis is next week. We need to wrap all this up.
Yeah.
Because it all just sort of was over and done with really quickly. Because like you said, he tracked him down. And then Ramsey transformed, because we had seen the week before, we'd seen that clearly he turns into something else because we saw the shadow, but we never saw what it was. We saw it this week, and it was this weird, hulking blood monster thing with a big skull, big grinning skull thing. And then him and the Flash had a fight that lasted probably a minute. It was like really quick. It was a really brief little fight.
Yeah, and then he tether him to a car or something, and then they used Ramsey's
mother.
They used something that Ramsey's to create his mother.
Well, no, what they used.
They did what he did to them.
This again didn't. This was what I got annoyed about as well with this bit, with the rushing of it, was because they had this really brief fight. He stopped Flash. He pinned him to the car with his like blood, and then the next thing when he was just about to kill him, and then the mother appeared, and it's like, what? She's dead. And then he transformed back into Ramsey, and he's like, Mum.
Yeah.
But you're not here. And then she's like, oh, my dear. And she was like talking to him and stuff. And he's like, this isn't real. How is this possible? And then Barry's like, oh, yeah, you know the thing you did to me? How like you
just used on you.
You got into my mind and infected me. I infected you back and I've got into your mind. And it's like, what? Like there was no setup for this at all. And it just seemed like a really convenient, like they say, a MacGuffin. It was just kind of like, oh, yeah, we just reversed it. When did they do that? How did they even know how to do that? Like, I was so confused by all of this. And I was like, it's so weird. And then because of that, by using his mother to get inside his head, it allowed them enough time for, like, everybody to turn up and, like, basically get him. And they realized that they couldn't put him in the pipeline because he was too powerful. But because they had, again, tying back into the beginning of the season, because they had created that special prison.
This episode you thought was, what is the point of it, John?
Yeah, the point of it was they'd created a prison. That was the point. The point was they had to create a special prison for this black hole man. So because that was a super strong one, they were like, that will hold him. So then they transferred him into there, and it did hold him. He wasn't able.
And then Argus took him away.
Yeah, and then they had a little offhand comment later on to say he's secured in an Argus cell and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh well, okay, that's fine then. So that's the end of that. And it just felt a bit like a bit of a damp fart. It was like, oh, that's it. You know, it wasn't like a deep, rumbling, satisfying fart where you go, oh, I really needed that.
Oh, Dominic.
It was a wet, bleh one. And you sort of go, oh. That was the ending of this episode, was like that. It was a bit like, oh, seriously? So I feel they messed up the ending. They made this really good, very compelling, very interesting villain with a very interesting plot that was sort of pseudo-vampirism and all of this kind of stuff, leading to that really cool stuff with the dark flash and everything. And then it was just all like, oh yeah, oh, we tricked him, and then we trapped him, and then that was the end of it. And it's all finished now. It's like, oh, wow, okay. That's it, is it?
And then we had that bit where they were all just sitting around quiet, waiting. It's like the clock going, it's not long to go now.
Well, before that, one other thing we'll throw back to that happened during the course of the episode was the whole thing with Cecile, was that she started having all these weird feelings and she could feel the fear and stuff. And then Camilla realized, she was like, you're a zombie detector. Basically, you can feel them. That means you can get us out of this building safely because of your powers. So
she feels their fear or something, the anxiety or something.
Yeah, that was the relevance to having them featured, because otherwise there wouldn't have really been any relevance to showing them. But it was like, oh, she can feel them and stuff.
And we had Frost as well, didn't we? Had the bit with Frost.
She was still getting afraid of everything, and then Caitlin had to like pep talk her through how
she needed her ice powers to save Joe.
Yeah.
But then she decided, because of it coming so soon before the crisis, she felt Caitlin needed to be with her friends.
Yeah, it's like you're the one. You're the one that should be spending these final moments with everybody. So then, they had the Flash family all together, reminiscing on stuff, talking about what they've accomplished, and then also talking about what's to come. And then the clock ticked.
Yeah.
And then they all looked, and they looked out the window, and the skies started turning red, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like, it started, crisis has begun. Then we went back to the sewers.
Yeah, so when we had Wells, he thinks the monitor saved him.
Yes.
Because they stopped Ramsey, which made the zombies didn't kill him. And he goes, you saved my life. So that's how the relevance.
Now we understood that. And we went, so he mistakenly thinks that when we saw him again, they were all bundled on top of him, weren't they?
They were attacking him, weren't they?
And he was doing his best to try and fight them off, but there were so many, and it was like he's fighting a losing battle. And then suddenly they all stopped, and they all this lot, and then he attributed it to this power, the monitor or whatever it was, the symbols. And so then that's why he was like, now I'll submit, now I'll bend the knee, because
exactly.
You saved
but it
my
wasn't
life.
Even anything to do with him.
No.
I thought, but there was no more clues then. The same thing happened as in the previous one.
Yeah.
But no more clues to what happened. Same thing ended. He disappeared and it shut again. I was like, no.
And then it was like, the Flash will return in Crisis on Infinite
Earths. To be continued on Crisis. It's like,
So yes, it was very, very good, very exciting. Like I said, the majority of the episode was really good. But then I just felt they didn't stick
the resolution of the Ramsey thing didn't go down very well, did it?
No.
So,
and it's like, obviously now they've locked him up.
Like a wet fart, apparently.
Yes. The fact they've locked him up basically means that theoretically they could bring him back in the future.
Oh yeah, because they have done with others they've imprisoned, haven't they? So.
But now I feel like he's lost his edge a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like now, because of how easy they took him down and stuff, he's not going to be... Unless they do something, they like revamp him or team him up with somebody or something like that. It's kind of like, oh, well, they managed to subdue him and finish him off and get him quite easily, really. So...
Yeah. And he's not something they can manipulate to their own means either, is he? So...
No.
Like some of them they get and they go, like they've done before with like that fire guy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We can use him to help us.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing they can go, well, we could use the guy to turn everyone into zombies.
Mm-hmm.
No, not happening. So, yeah, it was a bit rubbish, that bit, for thinking back on it.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But there we go.
But now they are heading to the crisis now, so that's the most exciting bit.
Yeah, so that's 2 out of the 3.
I just love the way Harrison Wells is the catalyst to it all.
I know.
Considering he hasn't been in it a lot, has he?
Yeah, that was the end. We talked about that obviously when we did the sort of roundup last week. Was they introduced this new version of Wells, but he's been operating completely separately and not in a massive way in every episode. But then now it's like you said, he seems to be integral to all of this.
This is really exciting.
So that's 2 out of 3 that have wrapped up their storylines. That was the other thing that was interesting, was the fact that both shows, I mean, I know that Supergirl has left a couple of dangling plot threads with Leviathan, the fact that they're still out there and that they've got a new leader and stuff, but for all intents and purposes, they wrapped up the stuff. You know, they wrapped up the stuff with Andrea Rojas, they wrapped up the stuff with Malefek, they wrapped up the stuff with Lena, and they kind of wrapped up the stuff with Leviathan. So that's all their plot threads.
They made their connection to the crisis finally.
Yeah, but obviously, but my point was more that both these other 2 shows, because Arrow hasn't had really a separate story. Arrow's series has all been tied into
leading towards the crisis. Yeah.
Whereas these 2 have had bits of crisis stuff, but they've also had their own threat.
So they've I see what you mean. They've sort of solved that problem for now.
So now that's
going forward, they'll have a new thing, won't they?
Because it'll be whatever the fallout is after crisis will introduce their new storylines for the second half of the season.
That's it. Yeah.
So that's why I said I felt a bit with at least with the Flash one, because they spent so long on the build up to Ramsey. I mean, really, what they could have done if they'd made that Last Temptation of Barry Allen a 3-parter, they could have had the first episode happen the way it happened last week. They could have had this one happen the way it happened, but rather than them stopping him this week, they could have then had part 2 could have been him sort of taking control or almost taking control, with the final part being, I'm coming for the reactor and I'm going to do it that way. And then they could have then dedicated all of the final part to them working out a way to stop him, rather than working out a way to stop him and stopping him in the final couple of minutes of that episode before the last 10 minutes that were all to do with the new storyline.
Well, what they should have done is not have a break, because they could have done an extra one then, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Because they knew the time span, they couldn't.
But that's what I mean. It's almost like they were oh no, we've still got to wrap this up. Crisis is next week, you know, sort of like, quick, we'll do it all in one episode. We'll tie it up really quickly. So it was a bit of a shit. Whereas Supergirl, they plotted it a bit better in that it was able to naturally all come to a conclusion. It didn't feel rushed, you know.
No, not at all.
So there we go. So that's them 2. So now we move on to the final part, which is this week's episode of Arrow. And this one, as I mentioned last week, with the name of the island, Lian Yu, this episode was called Purgatory.
Yes. So we started at the beginning of this episode. They were all on the island. Lian Yu, yeah. And Layla apparently brought them there, which was interesting. They're there to build a weapon.
Yeah. And then this is where we got we mentioned, obviously, when we were talking about last week and the recap and stuff, that it was kind of like he was going on all these little side quests, like shopping tasks to get all of these things. And then it turned out he was getting all of these things because they needed them all to put them together to create a weapon.
Yeah.
And that's why they needed the plutonium, and that's why they needed the dwarf star alloy, and that's why they needed the doctor or the scientist or whatever he was. And it was like, oh, that's really interesting. So all these like separate little missions have all been about creating something. And it was, again, to do with crisis, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then she also said something about there was energy spikes on the island.
Yeah. Yeah. Lian Yu was giving off huge, like, strange energy readings or something.
So Ollie finally explained it all to Mia and William, because they were there to explain basically the crisis.
Yeah.
Because he'd never mentioned it before, had he? And all the time that he'd
no, not really.
Friendship with them. So they didn't really know why are we here? So like, well, I'm here because of this, and I don't know why they sent you here. But
then didn't it turn out that, like, didn't Lila also give them that little bit of info to say that was the other reason It wasn't just for Oliver to get to have that time with his kids, but also because William is so clever.
They needed their skills, basically, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And then Diggle had a conversation with her, didn't he, about her being in cahoots with a monitor, and she apparently said that he had saved her years before.
Yeah, because when she was a soldier.
Vietnam. Yeah, soldier, yeah.
And all the rest of her platoon had died apart from her. And it was because it was the monitor that saved her, because he said, you have a role to play in something bigger that's coming in the future.
Yeah.
And so that's why. And then she was kind of indebted to him for saving her life.
Diggle is so angry about the whole thing, isn't he? The whole episode is like, rah. But then we heard that Renee, Dinah and Roy were all on their way as well to help them.
Yep.
And they were on a plane, weren't they? Coming down. It's like, yeah, off we go. And then suddenly a rocket was launched and smashed their plane up. It's like, whoa, damn, what's going on here?
And they were like, I thought you said we were alone. And Lila's like, yeah, Argus swept the whole island. There shouldn't be anybody else here. Like, well, clearly somebody else is here.
So they all split up, didn't they, to save so some were going to save the people off the plane. The others were going to rescue the plutonium that Roy had obviously got.
It was Diggle, Lila and Connor were going to go and try and rescue Renee and Dinah and Roy. And Oliver and Laurel were going to go and try and get the plutonium.
Yeah, and they told the kids they had to stay put.
Yeah, and so William had to work on the weapon and Mia had to basically stay and protect him.
It was funny, that bit, wasn't it? Because he was going, oh, this 2019 tech is so ancient. Because I see that from the future. So how they expect me to do it with this? They had also had a chat, didn't they? The brother and sister.
Yeah.
About everything to do with time, like not seeing the dad and the connections and all that stuff. A bit of a heart to heart. So Diggle, Connor and Lila found Renee and Dana. And then Laura and Ollie found the plutonium. But someone grabbed hold of her, didn't they?
Yes, and there was a shot, wasn't there? There was a shot or something, and you're like, what? Somebody's attacking them. Who's got them? And then it was...
somebody called Fires or something. And
it was the original version. So before we got the new version of the assassin guy, Deadshot, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. No.
No, not Deadshot. Stupid comic books and having characters that have all got Deathstroke. So before we had the Deathstroke that we came to know more, there was another one and he was a soldier, and the guy that eventually became Deathstroke, it was his like best friend or something.
Yeah.
Billy Wintergreen.
Yeah.
And that was him. And then we got the reveal of Fires. And these are the characters from when Oliver was when he first went to Lian-Yu, there were soldiers there and they were doing something, and it was like, they're up to something. They've got a camp and all this stuff. And this Fires guy was the general that was in charge of this unit. And the unit also included Wintergreen and then the other, oh God, I've forgotten what his name is now. Slade Wilson, yeah. Slade Wilson and Billy Wintergreen were part of this group. But obviously Slade was disillusioned with everything that they were doing and didn't believe what they were doing was right, because they were going to launch an attack on the Chinese mainland or something. And but they're dead. Yeah. They were killed. Oliver killed them. And now they're there again. And they're like, well, it looks like we've been given a second chance and all this stuff. And you're like, oh man, this isn't good. Tying in even further as well to the concept of this island being Purgatory. So that was interesting.
Maybe that's to do with what the spikes were, though, didn't that's what I thought at the time.
But didn't they say that? Didn't they say it was something to do with this weird energy?
Yeah.
Brought them back. Because the other thing, the island shouldn't really have been there, because we saw, was it last season or the season before?
Yeah, because he was saying, why does it look like it does now? Because they had that big explosion on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it looks like it did when I first got here. So she got away, didn't she? She battled him, didn't she, Laurel?
Yeah.
And got the plutonium. So he told her, go back with that, and I'm going to do some more investigations. And then he met his old mate.
Yes, his mentor, Yao
Fei. I thought, wow, it's his mentor.
The like original Green Arrow.
I thought, wow, because the guy taught him everything he knew. The one that didn't like him when he first met him.
Grumpy old Chinese man. Yeah.
So we saw that, and that was like cool. We had a little snip back to the the plane crash and they found Roy and he was in a really bad way and they said they're going to have to amputate his arm.
Because where the wreckage had fallen and stuff, he'd been like pinned, hadn't he? And they were like, we can't move it. It's like embedded. And then, yeah, they noticed that was it oil or something was leaking out of the plane and it was going to like set fire and there'd be a big explosion. And Digger was desperate. He was like, no, there's got to be another way. We're not going to, because Connor said about chopping his arm off. And he was like, no, we're not doing that. And we're going to find another way. And they were trying to create like a lever thing to get all the stuff off. And they were like, we haven't got enough time. There's not enough time to do this. And then it was Roy that made the call, wasn't it? And Roy said, this is the only way for all of us to survive. Chop off my arm.
Yeah.
Oh,
was like, that was horrible. Yeah. And then we went back to Ollie and Yofei and they were walking along and then they got trapped in these
nets.
Like net things. So that was quite interesting, their little chat, wasn't it?
And
he was going about, I can use my knife, you won't better use your knife. And then they were talking. There was a big sort of chat, wasn't there, between those two?
Yeah, it was conversations about obviously things about him being a father because obviously he was Shadow's dad.
Yeah,
and talking about Shadow, and then you know yourself now being a father now yourself, and this, that, and the other. And he was also saying to him about like how much you have changed, Oliver Queen, but some things haven't changed. You are still impatient, and you are still too hasty.
It's so funny, wasn't it? Because there's him going off with his knife, and in the meantime, the other guy had his thing to get, like you do with the sun burns things.
And yeah, it was like a magnifying glass, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and he was
so
just
funny.
waiting. And he was, because he kept saying, this is pointless. You're just using energy you don't need to use. And he's like, but we need to get out of here, Yao Fei. You don't understand. And he's going, no, patience, Oliver, patience. And then he just stuck his thing out because obviously he'd been waiting for the sun to reach a certain point in the sky. And he just sticks his thing out, burns through the ropes. And then it's like, there you go. See, told you, patience. That was brilliant.
That was hilarious. Well, back at the camp when they realised Ollie and hadn't come back, the daughter wanted to go out and find him, didn't she?
I've
got to go out. And they go, no, you can't go out. And she was like determined, but luckily William reasoned with her, didn't he?
And that bit was really sad because then she was all angry and upset and saying about, basically it was because she was afraid to lose him again. She's like, we just got him back and I was angry at him before and now I've got this other chance and I don't want to lose him again. And it's like, you can't, he's doing what's best for us. He knows what he's doing. I've seen him cheat death numerous times.
Yeah.
And he sort of talked her down and then carried on getting the weapon ready.
But that poor old Roy, Diggle felt really bad, didn't he? Because he said, if it weren't for me getting involved, this would never happened.
Yeah.
It's like, oh. And then we had, so they're going to power up the device. Oh no, Ollie appeared back, didn't he? He goes, I'm back.
Yeah.
It's all right, I'm saved. Because he got saved. And they said, we're going to power up the device. And they had to suit up.
Because they said that we need to still deal with them because they're going to be trying to stop us.
Yeah.
So then you had that really cool bit where, like, he did the suit up thing and they all went off. And then you had that bit where he went to their camp.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Oliver Queen, you stupid boy, you come here. And it's like basically implying he come here on his own. He's like, I'm not alone. And then they all stepped out of the bushes all in their costumes. And they had this cool shot where it panned along the line of them all stood in their like outfits and stuff, all ready to fight. It was really cool. And he's like, it doesn't matter how many people you have, the outcome will still be the same. And then you had some really cool, and this is the thing, we've said this before on previous podcasts and stuff, but the one thing that Arrow has always done the best out of all these shows is the action scenes. The fight scenes are always so good.
Awesome.
And you just got all these shots, this whole montage of like all these fighting, all the different people fighting other people.
Different types of fighting they do as well, based on their skills.
Slow motion, explosions going off, people getting thrown, doing like martial arts and hitting people with their weapons and all that. Oh, it was so good.
It was very exciting.
And
back at the camp, William realised the device didn't work. And they said, Oliver, we need you back because we need your DNA code to activate it.
Yeah, you're the only one that can activate it.
So he's like going, we're having a fight here. I can't just like walk away. So it worked out that they sort of, him and Diggle snuck away.
Because I felt, I don't know if you felt this, but I felt this sort of paralleled what's been going on in Flash with the whole preparing your team and trusting that your team are going to be able to continue in your absence. And it was that thing of like, he didn't want to leave the team because it's like, we're all in this fighting together. And Diggle's sort of like, look, they've got this.
Yeah.
Like, sort of thing like, look at this team that you've built. Look at these people.
Mm.
They're holding their own against these baddies. So you need to go back to the camp in order to finish this. And it's that it was almost like that, again, preparation for the future of like when maybe Oliver's not around. It's like you need to trust that they can handle themselves. You don't always have to be there holding their hand.
Mm. So that he said, like, I've got to be quick, let's get this done. And his DNA didn't work.
No.
And then they realised it was Lila's DNA.
And Diggle was like, did you know about all this? And she's like, no, I didn't know at all. This is obviously part of the Monitor's plan. I didn't know it was going to be me that would have to activate it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I thought, what does this mean? And it worked. And then she had to go through a porthole.
Yeah, something happened. There was a big spike of energy. And then it showed, didn't it, like flash to the others and like all of the
because they were fighting all those people. They all the dead people disappeared, didn't they? Yeah.
And they were just sat there like looking around like, there's just us here now. There's no one else here. And then it cut back to her and she said something. Didn't she say something like about I have to go or something? And then this purple portal opened up behind her out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she sort of just looked back at Diggle and the rest of them, right, quite sadly. And then she just walked through the portal. It closed and that was it. She was gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, what just happened?
I know. It was like, oh, no.
And then it sort of jumped forward in time a little bit, didn't it? Where
it was just like a couple of hours later or something. And they
were packing up.
They came back because obviously Buddy's disappeared. And they were getting off the island. Before she went, she'd set up her boat to come and collect them.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Ollie and his goodbye speech to Renee and Dana.
Yeah.
And to Ray.
Yeah, that was also poignant. And there was the bit with William and Oliver and Roy, and William tried to give him the arrowhead thing.
Oh yeah, the thing that Felicity gave him.
And he
tried to give it to his dad, and his dad didn't have it either.
It's like, you keep it. But it was interesting because there was all these implications about how they've changed the future. And it's like, Roy's like, I'm never coming back here. So the whole thing of like, that's how William would track him down in the future and stuff.
Yeah.
That's all been changed now. Because obviously the other thing was Roy didn't have one arm in the future. So they've changed all of it.
They've changed something, yeah.
Well, although there was a little line, wasn't there? Because didn't he say to Oliver, when Oliver's like, I'm really sorry about all this, Roy, and everything. He said, it's fine. He said, did he say that Diggle and like Argus are going to set him up with because obviously Diggle's got a robot arm, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he said, they're going to set me up with like a prosthetic
technology
arm
they got,
and stuff,
Yeah.
So I suppose technically it could have happened already, like it still could be the same in the future. But him saying he's not going back to the island and not having the spearhead and all of this kind of stuff gives the implication that maybe they've changed something that's in the future.
Yeah. So he was going around everybody, and then obviously there was a bit with him and Diggle, and
that was the other thing about changing the future, because he told Diggle to give a message to Felicity.
Yeah, and keep the kids together.
Yeah, let them grow up together and stuff.
Yeah.
Which again will change things, because obviously in the future episodes they only met for the first time in the future.
Yeah.
So if that happens and they grow up together, that's going to make things different in the future as well. So that was interesting. And yeah, that was a really nice. That was
lovely. The two of them, wasn't it? He said, "I'll be with you as long as I can be
until the end."
Yeah, till the end.
I've been with you since the beginning. It's like before anybody else. When he first got his first ally, it was Diggle.
Yeah,
and it's like, I'll be with you right until the very end, Oliver. And it was like, oh, and they hugged and stuff. And then he had his moment with Mia, and it made me cry. Not gonna lie, it made me tear up a little bit, and it was just so poignant. And it was like them, her saying about how she'd hated him so much because she didn't understand why he wasn't there and why he'd left them. But now she could see differently and see the man he is, and that he's like honorable and he's a hero and he tries to protect people. And she was just so grateful that she's had this chance to get to know him and spend time with him. And he said some really nice things to her and how proud he was of her. And he looked, and I think it's also what made me emotional was because of how emotional Stephen Amell gets.
He has been, actually. You notice how soft his voice has been.
Yeah, and his eyes, he always looks like he
looks really emotional about the whole thing, doesn't he? And obviously that guy, like, when that bit where the girl was talking to him, like, I'm so glad I got to know you. And it was almost like the actress was like, I'm so glad I got to work with you.
Yeah.
Because you're like iconic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I looked at it. And I went, oh, yeah, because she's like never worked with this guy before. And they've had this last few, like so many episodes. And it must be like, wow.
Yeah.
And he's so not. And obviously on the set and that, obviously we know how they are with people when they're working with people.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably took her under her wing and like helping her with her acting and stuff like they're doing on Walking Dead and stuff.
Yep.
And it was almost like it was a real, but in a scripted way.
Mm.
And that's why he was so like, oh yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Look you. And then the sky started turning red.
And they looked, and it's like it started, and then
Lila appeared.
Portal opened, and Lila appeared in a new shiny outfit.
And she is now called Harbinger.
Yeah, she's not Lila anymore.
I am the Harbinger.
Mm.
Crisis has begun.
Yep.
Da, da, da.
And then it was the whole Arrow will continue in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they had all the stuff. And then they showed the scene again with Harrison Wells.
Wells.
Yeah.
Submit and live your life anew. The knowledge is within you. Damn, again.
Yeah.
I thought something else would have happened, like, because we had a little bit extra on the Flash one. I thought, oh, what we're going to get on this one then? And it was like, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the extra bits we got is the fact that they've built a weapon that not even Lila knows what it's for.
Yeah.
But it's to do with the Crisis. And then obviously she got transformed into this Harbinger, and she's now announced officially it started. And it's like, oh,
can't wait till the weekend.
So yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait until next week now. I'm so super hyped up for Crisis.
I am.
It
just better be good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I hope that with all the build-up, all the build-up and all the hype and all the excitement and all the little teasers we've had and all the little bits of news that we've covered on the podcast over the last so many months, I'm really excited for it, and I hope that it delivers everything that we hope for and more.
Because otherwise we won't be happy.
Because we'll be like, oh, because let's be honest, this has been building now for, well, I mean, they've been teasing it bit by bit for the last couple of years. But like last year with the Elseworlds crossover and stuff was when they really kicked it into high gear and said, this thing is coming.
Yes.
And so we've had this year-long proper build-up to it. And then the way that they've been, peppering the other shows with stuff, and then obviously everything about Arrow has been leading up to this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just can't wait now, and I just hope it delivers everything that we hope for.
I do as well. I'm quite tempted to hang on, keep them all together and just watch them all at the same time.
What, the 3 parts?
Yeah.
Watch them in a row rather than watching them over separate
nights.
Rather
than watching one, I can't wait till tomorrow. I might just go like, I just go, right, I'm going to watch them all. Wednesday night.
wait until Wednesday and then watch all 3 in a row. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I might do that as well, actually.
Because then that would be a better way we can talk about it rather than go, all right, and in the Batwoman version of the Crisis,
this happened, and yeah.
Well, I think I'd like to do that and then write it up like that. Then it'd be a lot easier to talk about.
We'll do it as one whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll try not to split it because I think it'll make more sense.
And
it'd be more exciting.
Yeah.
You go, we haven't got to wait. Good to watch the next one now. Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
So yeah, guys, let us know what you think, because if you've been following this and you're excited for Crisis and stuff, we want to hear from you, hear what you have to say, because obviously this podcast will come out before we go into reviewing Crisis next week. So it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts prior to what actually then went down in the first 3 parts of Crisis. So let us know your thoughts on what you're hoping for, what you're excited about, and if you're in the same kind of mindset as us of like being really hyped and just hoping that it doesn't like let us down.
Yeah, please do.
So there we go. That's it. That's all for this week. So hopefully everybody's enjoyed that. It's been fun for us talking about it, because I couldn't wait. I was like, I can't wait to talk to Mum on the podcast because all the stuff that's been going on.
Random texts like, so excited.
Or just a, ooh, or a shocked face emoji or something.
Exactly.
I was like, but we can't discuss it because we got to wait to talk about it when we do the podcast.
It sounds fresher. Yeah, because if we talked about it before, it wouldn't sound as like so exciting the way we react to things that... Because we'd already spoke about it, so it doesn't come out as natural, does it?
Exactly.
So yes, that's good. Good chat.
Good chat. So guys, as I said at the beginning of the show, obviously in the description box, you will find a whole bunch of links. In there, you'll find the link to my Twitter. You'll also find the link to my merch shop. So if you want to represent the Kingdom of Geeks, show your allegiance, then check that out and see what I have on offer. There's also, at the time of recording, well, not at the time of recording, sorry, at the time of you listening to this, you're now going to have access to some Christmas stuff. So if you would like to buy yourself a Christmas jumper or Christmas socks or something like that, have a look at the new items that have been added to the shop. And also check out my donation mediums if you want to help support us and help support the podcast and the future of the channel. Any donations would be hugely, hugely appreciated. They really do help. You're not obligated to do so, obviously, but it would be lovely. And there's also a link there for Green Man Gaming, which is my affiliate link. If you want to buy yourself any digital games, click on my link, and anything you buy, I will receive a small commission. It won't cost you anything extra. The money paid to me is paid by the company, so it's not added onto your bill. So you'll be helping me while helping yourself at the same time. Don't forget also to hit that thumbs up button and leave us a big like, and also leave your comments, as we've mentioned several times now. And subscribe to the channel. If you're new here or if you just haven't made that commitment yet, please do so. It would be fantastic, and it helps grow the Kingdom of Geeks, get bigger reach, and more people can enjoy the podcast that you guys enjoy too, along with all the other bits and pieces that I do on my channel. So there we go. So thank you once again, Mother. Thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome.
We will recommence next week when Crisis has begun.
Started. Oh.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh. So all that's left to say is, you take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.